Hi, this is John Beatty, and you're listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.
Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 46 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I am your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Bob Lucius. Bob? 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 Bob?
Indeed, Rick. I think I know where you're going with that, man. Are you hearkening back to the mid 1980s by chance?
Well, you know, Bob, life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around in a while, you could miss it.
That's true. And at the very least, Rick, you should steal your dad's classic automobile and go for a joyride.
Exactly. Yes, that was a little homage to Bueller. Because we are in the year of 1986, which was Ferris Bueller's Day Off was number 5 in the top grossing movies of 1986. And that is what we are doing today. We are covering the Captain America annual number 8, which you might say off the top of your head, if you're not that familiar, oh, what's so special about that one? But if you saw the cover, you would know this is like the most sought after annual, at least not one of the early ones, but it is the one with Wolverine and Captain America fighting on the cover.
Yeah. You know, the annuals don't get a lot of love, Rick. I mean, let's be frank with that. Right. But this one does, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you suggested this one. And so, I was like, oh yeah, we definitely got to do this one. So we'll jump into that here in a couple moments. Anything going on in the Facebook group this week or recently?
No, it's we haven't had any fires. That's a good thing.
It's true.
Yeah.
We did update the rules.
We did.
We did update some of the rules. We updated some of the questions. So if you're in the group, if you're one of the 4,000 members in the group, you have been grandfathered in, but now that we're up to 4,000 people, we're being a little bit more strict, because a lot of people, Bob, I don't know if you know this, a lot of people sometimes don't answer the questions.
I know it's crazy. There's like 3 questions, right, Rick? I mean, 3.
Yeah, it's like,
and they're not like, you don't have to study for them.
No. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
yeah. So anyway, yep.
And and the thing is, Rick, we don't it's like we don't go to your profile to verify that your answers were correct.
Oh, I do, Bob. I do. I stalk everybody.
If you say Mike Zeck is your favorite creator, it's like we don't go check to make sure that like you've explicitly said that on your profile. You're right. Yeah, you probably do. You're right.
Yeah. No. I stalk the ones that don't answer because I'm like, look, give me a reason, any reason to let you in the group. I don't care. Right. Show me a picture of something comic book related.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
You're in.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Right.
Now it's kind of like, all right, guys, you know what? We got so much going on. We don't have time to do that kind of research. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you haven't been on the Facebook group yet, you really need to get there because there's always interesting conversations going on. People sharing stuff about new comics, old comics, filling in their holes, stuff they're searching for. Sometimes there's some killer deals that could be made, showing off their commissions, sketches, their original art, their action figures, statues. It's just one big happy family of Captain America comic book fans.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Rick, I have, I've been collecting Cap for years and loving Cap and reading Cap and philosophizing about Cap, but I have learned so much in the last year or so that I've been in the group. It's been great, man. And all kinds of different aspects of being a Cap fan that I didn't even know existed, quite frankly. It's been expensive in some cases,
Yes.
but it's been really rewarding as well. So
Yes, and as I like to say, and stuff that people show, like they'll post something as something really really cool, and I'll be like, wow, I never knew. I always wanted that.
right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, check out the Facebook group. And by the way, also check out if I don't know where you're listening to this podcast right now. What's your platform of preference? But you'd always go to our website, which is CaptainAmericaComicBookFans.com, and we have all of our uh, uh, episodes on there, and you can post comments there underneath. You can you can share, you can do all kinds of fun things, and we'll start putting some other posts on there as well. So we got a big announcement coming soon. We got this really cool premium. I know we've been talking about it for weeks, but let me tell you, we've been working on this for a long time, and we'll be announcing it very, very soon. So we're looking forward to doing that. So you can check out the website there. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Not that you would know, because no one follows us on there. It's kind of funny, but anyway.
Maybe we got to get on TikTok. Maybe that's the key.
Oh yeah,
My
we got to do some
my son will know
Bob dance videos.
Yeah, my son will know I exist if we get on TikTok, which would be a nice thing.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least your son didn't call in and say, "Hey, Dad," during the listener Q&A.
Good point. Yeah.
So, all right. And you know what? We also have a big announcement on who our next guest is going to be, which is going to be next episode 47. But we'll save that for the very end of this podcast. We'll keep you hanging there. All right. Oh, and coming up after that, episode 48, Bob came up with this great top 10 list. Now, we had a top 10 list that we did way back in episode number 9, and it was top 10 villains not named the Red Skull. And we had a lot of people call in and vote for who theirs was, and it was a fun conversation. And it's one of our most listened to podcasts, so our episodes. You should go check out episode 9. But the one that we're going to do for episode 48, this was Bob's genius idea. Bob, you want to tell him?
Yeah, I do want
to. Okay.
Yeah. It's I'm only allowed one brilliant idea every year, so absolutely I want to talk about it. So I was thinking we should do a show on the top 10 differences in the origin stories of Captain America, because as you know, from the get-go, from Captain America Comics #1 all the way up through Tales of Suspense and the early issues of Captain America Volume 1 and subsequent issues, we have seen little changes along the way, and I thought it might be fun to sort of discuss some of those changes and why they've been so important to the Captain America mythos.
I love that idea, Bob, and I'm all totally on board with that. I'm just curious though, since you're saying it's top 10, are we going to rank them as far as I don't know that how are we going to do this? Like, are we going to say here's 10 differences that we've seen over the 80 years, or we're going to say, no, here are the top 10, and here's our number 1 origin, here's our number 10 origin? Like, how are we doing this?
Well, you're just going to have to tune in and find out, Rick.
Okay. Apparently Bob hasn't figured this part out yet.
Curses, Rick, curses.
All right. Okay, so stay tuned for the end of this episode to find out who our next guest is going to be next episode. All right, let's get to it, Bob. All right, so this is annual number 8. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, right, it's 1986. So this one had a cover date of September 1986, which means it hit the stands in the summer. And as I mentioned, as far as the cover, you've got the classic, and this is by Mike Zeck, right? So you have the Mike Zeck logo up in the top corner. You have the Marvel 25th anniversary on top of that. And guess how much it was, Bob, for a big annual back then?
How much, Rick?
$1.25.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
And so it's this Captain America annual, and it's Cap facing this direction, and he looks angry, like like you don't normally see him this angry, and he's got his shield up, and then you with his back to you, but he's twisting. Wolverine's coming down with his left claw over Cap's raised shield, and sparks are flying. And both of them have their other arms cocked back, ready to launch at each other. And it says featuring Wolverine. Now, if that cover didn't grab you back in summer of 1986, you don't have a pulse, my friend.
Yeah, that's an iconic cover, Rick.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're going to ask the average comic book reader to give you 5 comic book covers that they recognize as a Captain America comic book cover, this is going to be one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And it was penciled by Mike Zeck and inked by John Beatty. And so what's been going on during this time, you may ask? Well, over in the regular series of Captain America, so also with a August cover date, is Captain America 320. Now, do you remember what was going on in that time period of Cap, Bob?
Oh gosh, it seems no.
All right. And by the way, those were only 75 cents. You're only paying an extra 50 cents for that big annual. This was the Mark Gruenwald story of Scourge. So there was like several issues of Scourge. So that was what was going on. Paul Neary was the penciler and Dennis Jonke was the inker. So that was going on in Cap's regular issues. And what was going on with Wolverine, you might ask? Well, in that time period, it was Uncanny X-Men. This was like the early 200s, so 208, 209. And this was back when Chris Claremont was still writing it. John Romita Jr. was doing the art. And this was, I don't know if you weren't a big X-Men fan back then, but in issue 200, it was the trial of Magneto. And then Magneto basically became the new mentor of the X-Men, and Professor X was gone. So this particular time period, the X-Men were fighting the Hellfire Club and over trying to claim Rachel, who is this Phoenix from the future. And so that was the story going on right then. And Bob, do you know who's in the Hellfire Club?
I don't, Rick.
Well, it's kind of, they're based on like chess pieces. You have the Black King, the Black Queen, the Black Bishop, the Black Rook. The Black Queen is none other than Selene.
There you go. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So she, yep. So that's, and for those who don't read Captain America recently, the volume 9 that just ended the Coates run, Selene was a big villain in there. So that was what's going on with Wolverine at that time. Now, I say that because, Magneto is always seen as a villain, right? But at this point, he's on a redemption arc. So in issue 200, there was a trial of Magneto. Then he became kind of a mentor / leader of the X-Men, redeeming himself. So, which is not a good visual for the X-Men because they've already been kind of hated, hunted, misunderstood. So having a global villain like Magneto there associated with them is not good for them. Now, getting back to the annual, we have, as I mentioned, on the art team, Zeck and Beatty. Also helped inking this issue was Joe Rubinstein. And if you recall, back when we had our discussion with him on episode number 8, so great talk with Joe Rubinstein. You need to go check that out, episode 8. He did mention how he was brought in at the last minute to help inking. I think it's like the last 6 or 8 pages or something like that of this issue, because I guess they were behind schedule, and he wasn't in the credits in the beginning, but at the very end, he made them say that he helped ink the book, because rightfully so, if he didn't and his name wasn't in the book, he'd never get any royalties. So he's done a little bit here. The colorist, I'm not familiar with this colorist. Is Glynis Oliver? But the letterer, Jim Novak's been around, and then editor Mike Carlin and editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. So we already talked about what was going on with the characters, what was going on with the creators. Now, Mike Zeck had left the book with issue 289. And what did he go leave for? Well, it was, you might have heard that back in 1985, there was this miniseries called Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. And that was a huge story that was written by Jim Shooter and art by Zeck and Beatty. And that ran until, I want to say, spring of 1985 is when it ended. It was a 12-issue miniseries. Then when they were done this gigantic, like the biggest thing ever in Marvel, publishing at that time, Zeck and Beatty then went on to do the Punisher miniseries. And that was written by Stephen Grant, and but it was penciled and inked by Zeck and Beatty. So they went from that to the Punisher miniseries, and then from that they came to do this annual. So that's kind of how they came full circle. And also what's kind of cool is after this annual was when Beatty came on the book to ink Paul Neary, and then Zeck came on to do covers for a while. So that kind of brings us full circle.
That, my friend, earns you a cookie, because that was a lot of great research there. It's nice to tie things together and to, I mean, as I've said before, I'm a Cap reader, man. I'm a Cap collector, and I don't dabble in other characters. My depth of knowledge in some of these other characters is very, very shallow. And so it's cool to hear the different connections and what's going on in other series concurrent to what we're going to explore tonight. So that's cool. Thanks, man.
You got it. All right. Stan Lee presents Captain America. All right, so we have an opening splash page, and it's a barroom fight. And sitting at the bar is Wolverine, but in his civilian clothes. And he's just sitting there minding his own business, having a brew, smoking a cigar. And behind him, there's a big barroom fight going on. Chairs, tables being thrown, guys being thrown. And it says, Richie's Bar, 20 miles north of Salem Center, New York. It's not one of Westchester County's tourist attractions, but it's a good place to get away from the hurly-burly of everyday life, a place to relax, nurse a couple of brews, and contemplate life's vicissitudes. And it has a little asterisk down below, Bob.
I love this.
Do you know what it stands for?
Vicissitudes?
Yes.
It is a synonym for changing fortunes, Rick.
Yes.
And this is one of the great things about people say comics is just for kids, man. But this is how you learn vocabulary.
That's right.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. So it's a place to relax. At least it usually is. And next thing you know, there's a guy being thrown over Logan, and it says, the fellow sitting at the bar's name is Logan. If he ever had a first name, no one's used it in years. And he's a mutant by birth, a killer by instinct, a masked manhunter by profession. When on business, he's known as Wolverine. His friends are few, his enemies an endangered species. But he didn't come here tonight seeking friends or enemies. And there's this big fat guy that gets thrown over the bar and crashes the mirror behind it and all the bottles. And the bartender, he's ducking, going, oh no. And I don't know if you noticed, just as the guy's hitting the bar Logan picks up his beer to make sure it doesn't get splashed. And there's a guy hitting a chair over this big bald guy who's fighting these two guys, and he comes up behind. Stinking mutiny scum, teach you to come in a straight bar. No, he sought peace and quiet, a few hours respite from a world that hates and fears those who are born different, like this poor soul in the center of the cyclone. Finally, the altercation lurches to a halt. The room is suddenly still, save for the sobbing of the big man standing amidst a sea of twitching bodies. I'm not muty scum, am not. Bob Frank normal now. Normal, you hear? Wanted directions, not fight. You made Bob Frank fight. You. I go now. And sure enough, there's like 10 bodies on the floor and broken tables and chairs. Bob Frank. The name sounds familiar to Logan. Whoever he is, his prowess as a barroom brawler seems second only to Logan's own. What the devil was that all about? Don't know. Keep the change, bub. And he puts his hat on and he flips a coin on the bar. Bob, I know it's 1986. What coin's he flipping, man?
Man, I was like 18, 19 in 1986, and I was sneaking into bars, Rick, and I don't recall paying with a coin.
Reminds me of reminds me of this stand-up comedian. What's his name? It'll come to me. But anyway, he talks about watching these old Western movies, and people would just get a pouch of coins and just throw the pouch.
Right.
And like, I'll get a hotel room, a bath from a horse, some wild oats, a meal, a bottle of whiskey.
One of those ladies over there.
Yeah. And a woman. Yeah. And here you go. And he throws a pouch of coins, and you didn't count it back then. You just, what was it worth? It was money. It was worth money.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. The guy just tosses a coin. All right. So Logan's grabs his duffel bag and he leaves, and it's dead of night, and sure enough, comes out the bar, and the bald guy is walking down the road. Logan may not have come to Richie's on business, but there's something about the skull-cracking customer that provokes his curiosity. It's possible the guy could just be abnormally strong. On the other hand, when you've been around mutants as long as Logan has, you can almost tell them by their scent. And mutants, good, bad, or indifferent, always mean business to him, as well as to the other 8 members of the mutant defending X-Men. With practiced speed, Logan strips off his cumbersome casual wear and clads himself in his somber battlesuit. It takes less than a minute. Then, like the predator he resembles, Wolverine takes to the woods, stalking his quarry. Although the underbrush has 1,000 pitfalls, he doesn't make a sound. Where'd Bob Frank go? Bob Frank afraid of dark. And, I want to point out this panel here, because I think it's a really cool perspective, Bob, right? So you got Wolverine kind of like in the woods in a gully looking up at the road. So you see the night sky, you see the trees in the foreground and background, and you've got a leaning forward Wolverine, kind of like he's staying low, in the shadows. And it's just it's a real cool angle, don't you think?
It is, actually. It's, you've got the Bob Frank character skylined, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, Wolverine is sort of crouched as low as he can get to the ground, and yet still move forward, like the wild animal he is. It really is a great perspective.
And it's also interesting the choice that Zeck made here on where the detail goes. Like, there is absolutely no detail on the bottom of his boot, because you see on the right boot, on his sole, it's completely flat, which wouldn't make sense unless you're an action figure. But the hair on his arms, are all like detailed in because, Wolverine's a very hairy character. So he didn't, it wasn't like he didn't want to be detailed. He just chose where he was going to be detailed. I find that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It takes your eye right to where he wants it to go.
Yeah. And by the way, it's the classic brown and brown and orange kind of style uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's had a bunch over the years. So I just want to make sure the visual is there. The name finally registers. Robert Frank was the costume crime fighter called the Wizard, who died some years back. He had a son, a mildly retarded mutant who discharged nuclear energy dubbed Nuclo. Could this be him? Who's the Wizard, Bob?
Wizard, Golden Age, man. Popularized by Roy Thomas in the Invaders, right? I mean, yeah. And
who did he marry?
Oh gosh, who was it? It was. Is it Golden Girl?
I thought it was Miss America.
No, I don't believe it was Miss. I think it was Golden Girl. Yeah. Patriot and Miss America got together.
You're going to make me look this up, Bob.
I am. I could be wrong. Gosh. And, it's late. And I've been grading papers all week, buddy. So.
All right. Hold on now. If you ever want to find out something, just go to marvel.fandom.com.
Great website.
Yeah. I get a lot of good stuff from there. Here we go. Miss America. Yep. Robert Frank is the Wizard, and Madeline Joyce Frank is Miss America.
I stand corrected.
Bob, I got to tell you, the amount of just dumb knowledge in my head is scary. Oh boy. It came in handy when I owned a comic book store. Let me tell you.
I bet it did. I bet it comes really in handy while you're waiting for meetings to start at your place of employment now.
Indeed. But then, and we get a surprised looking Wolverine as he looks up. He loses sight of the man for but a moment as he goes around some dense foliage. Now he's nowhere to be seen. He pauses for a second, trying to pick up the scent of Bob Frank's trail. Then there's a big noise. It's like, thump. And you hear a scream, and Wolverine is on one side of the road in a gully, and he bounces to the other side very quickly. And by the way, it's kind of cool seeing this because the last time we saw this was in Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, Mike Zeck drawing Wolverine like this. It's kind of fun to see it again. It came from the woods on the other side of the road, the sound of a struggle. But why can't he detect more than one scent? Bob Frank's. A robot. And sure enough, there's like this 20-foot tall silver robot that is just beating the heck out of Bob Frank. His first impression is that it is one of the mutant hunting sentinel robots now employed by a certain government agency. But this metal behemoth does not smell like a sentinel. Curiously, it has no scent at all. But that doesn't stop Wolverine from thinking that what it's doing stinks. Oh, Mark. Nice play on words. 6 12-inch claws thrust from Wolverine's hands. They are made of antimonium, the strongest metal known to man. And he leaps, and he's got his arms cocked back, and you see a snick. Razor-sharp antimonium, wielded by someone with Wolverine's strength, can slice through ordinary steel like butter. Of course, it has to connect first. And so this giant robot turns and fires right at Wolverine, catches him midair, and sends Wolverine flying back into the woods. Looks like through a few trees. Wolverine's entire skeleton is laced with antimonium. His body possesses the mutant ability to heal rapidly, but there's still a matter of pain. And speaking of which, the robot takes Bob Frank and he just puts him over top of a boulder and crushes his head. Wolverine jumps back onto the back of the robot. Not so fast, sucker. And he claws at the back of his helmet. A few more swipes and you're scrap metal, Tin Man. Curiously, Robot makes no move to dislodge the mutant on his shoulder, but instead straightens up and launches into the air with a roar of rockets. Though Wolverine tries to secure himself, he loses his grip from the violent vibrations and is forced to kick away himself from the rocket exhaust. He lands more like a jungle cat than a Wolverine. He sees the robot rendezvous with a figure on some sort of hovercraft. His highly acute hearing picks up a single word uttered over the din of the distant rockets. Tess. And that's Tess. When the flare of the rocket is no longer discernible against the night sky, he turns his attention toward the robot's prey. His wounds are serious. Very serious. If the man ever had nuclear energy coursing through him, there's no evidence of it now. But at the moment, he's still breathing, still fighting to not give up the elusive energy called life flickering within him. There's a hospital about 10 miles from here. At a full-out sprint, Wolverine can have him there in under 40 minutes. Hang on, bub. You'll make it. So now we're at another scene, and it's a big old splash page, and it's a town in the middle of the night. And you got Captain America there with his parked motorcycle standing over a huge hole in the ground. And there's police holding off the locals. Quickie Burgers, just off Interstate I-94, 20 minutes from the heartland of America. See that man, Billy? He's a real hero, not like Dee Snider. Who's Dee Snider?
Tell me you're a fan of Dee Snider.
I was not.
You're worthless and weak, Rick. What do you want to do with your life?
Yeah. So, Bob.
Oh man,
I wasn't into the big hair and makeup on men look back in the 80s.
You weren't?
No, wasn't me.
Makes sense. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm surprised they, or maybe it was intentional. They misspelled Dee Snider's last name, but that didn't throw me off the trail, Rick, because I remember those videos, and the appearance of Douglas Niedermeyer from Animal House. And I Want to Rock. Those videos they're classics. They're classic tricks. I've introduced my son to them.
And no wonder he definitely would know you through TikTok.
So I love that Mark just gave a little throw out to Twisted Sister. I think that was awesome.
Yeah. So I like the pop culture references. They're always fun. So I'm just, I'm really appreciating this splash page. I don't know if you paid attention to the detail. There's so much detail on this, like the bricks on the building, the rooftop. Even since we're at an angle, we only get a part of the Quickie Burgers sign on the front of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of detail that the mountains in the background, the cars on the highway.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that, the eye, once again, because of the color, is drawn to the sort of the center of the splash page, right?
Yeah.
And everything beyond the center is sort of muted in the coloring, which is a cool approach to ensure that your eye is drawn to the action.
Exactly. Wow, who'd ever thought a guy like Captain America would show up in our town? You kidding, Henry? All America's his turf. And then there's a guy who works inside. You could, he's got his apron on. So finally, Mr. McNulty decided to see what was down there. And when he didn't come up, I got scared. And then you have Cap talking to one of the local police officers. Any idea what caused the cave-in? Not the slightest. Found it this way this morning. With your permission, sir, I'm going to take a look. Be careful. We already lost one of our men down there. We have 2 men trapped in a large hole in the parking lot of Quickie Burgers off I-94. That's right, a hole big enough to drive a car into. Lucky thing my computer network alerted me about this. So the computer network, and I think we'll talk more about it throughout the story, but so Mark Gruenwald had introduced this as a way for Captain America kind of to get out of New York and kind of go across the country and go where he's needed. So he developed this network called the Stars and Stripes, where people can just call in and say, hey, there's this going on, and help be his eyes and ears throughout the country. And he's going down a ladder into the hole. He's got a flashlight. Judging by the pattern of the debris, the hole was made by something bursting out of the ground. Anything that big? A stairway. Looks like a bunker down here. There's the door. The 2 men trapped down here must have gone through it. And he opens up the door, and 6-inch steel. A good door for a vault or a bomb shelter. There are the men, and they were lying on the floor unconscious. No indication of what made them drop. Wait, that faint aroma of chlorine. Phosgene gas. No handle on the inside of the door. Better make sure it doesn't slam shut on me. And he puts his shield down to stop if the door closes. There. Wonder how much gas these poor souls were exposed to. I must have stepped on the door closing mechanism, and sure enough, the door closes, but the shield stops it from closing all the way. And at the same time, the gas comes out. And there's the gas spraying out from the hidden ducts in the walls. So he grabs both the guys and he carries them out. And he gets them up top to the medics. They're both responding to the oxygen. Good. Let's move. You rescued the men. Why do you want to risk going back down? I still want to know what it is you've got down there. If you say so, Captain, here's that gas mask you requested. So Cap's now with a gas mask, and he's back down, and it's dark. He's got his shield, and he's starting picking up big rocks and putting him in his shield to as a holder. Bomb shelters don't usually come equipped with their own gas chambers, and I have a feeling that's just one of its many features. This chunk of concrete ought to make a nice doorstop. And at the end of the gas chamber, another steel door. And beyond it, I don't see any more gas ducts. Guess I can ditch the mask. Any other weight trigger surprises? And he rolls one of those big rocks in there, but nothing. For a solid concrete floor, the acoustics of that rolling stone didn't sound quite right. Be that as it may, door number 3 beckons, and next panel, whoa! And there's a trap door that opens on both sides underneath him, and underneath are all these spikes. And Cap's falling, but he manages to get his shield and position it just right so that he lands on the shield on his back. He's like, phew, cute. If not for my impenetrable shield, I'd be having steak for supper. And he spelled steak in his head, S-T-A-K-E.
True.
So he's leaning back on his shield, and he grabs on both sides to the spikes. So now I'll just brace myself against the near wall, and he pushes off. My poor shield will need a new coat of paint after this. And he, as he's going across all the spikes, sliding on the shield, he then uses his toes to get underneath the straps of his shield, and he jumps up, and he does a kind of like a backwards somersault with his hands on the ledge, with his feet on the shield, pulling it up. That's a pretty good stunt right there.
I believe technically it's called an alley oop.
Ah, probably that's why he says that. I'm glad you said that, Bob, because I think I would have in my I would have went alley zoop.
Alley zoop, yeah.
Because that's how it's spelled.
He'd be channeling Batroc, the Liber.
That's true. Oh. All right. Door number 3, and yet another corridor leading off to the left. I wonder what devilry this chamber is rigged with. The cinder block wall is pockmarked. Bullet holes, perhaps? Lost all my doorstops in the spill. I'll have to sacrifice my flashlight. So he does. He puts the flashlight down to make sure the door doesn't close all the way. And he starts charging. Now let's see if I can make it to where the gun mounts must be located before they... No such luck. And he dives and he puts his shield up. And sure enough, there's these gun turrets that are open up in front of him. And they start just firing machine gun bullets. How's that noise? Can you make that noise for me, Bob?
Which I have to say, no weapon sounds like that at all.
No, that sounds like the bullets ricocheting off his shield, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
right?
That's, yeah.
Yes. I don't know. When I was a kid, I would be like, I would make one of those noises.
Yeah, yeah, that brought me back.
Yeah. How about that? I'll do that noise and you do the ricochet noise. Ready? There you go, folks. Wow.
Yeah, it's coming alive.
Oh my God.
This is like the 1930s serials, the 1930s, 1940s serials right now. So you can only imagine.
Yes. If I, all right.
It's the imaginarium of the mind.
It's true. I love that in the movie, right? The Cat movie where they were doing the serial and they had, the doing the story about, that was really cool. Yeah. Oh, well, it's bound to run out of ammo sooner or later. I think that's about it. And you see Cap, getting up from his army crawl position with the shield in front of him. Now to see just what it is that someone went to such great lengths to safeguard. And he gets through the last door. Hard to see in here without my light. Why, this is nothing more than an old boiler room. But something disturbed the thick layer of dust in here recently. And whatever it was had been lying on that table and left those enormous footprints. Judging by the machine parts, it must have been some sort of robot. Soon, now Cap's back up to where he started out, up on the upper level. Captain, we thought we heard gunfire. We were going to... No need for alarm, Officer Gannon. It seems someone turned his basement into a death trap to guard something in the boiler room that got up and walked away. Anyone know what was on the site before it was a parking lot? This man claims to. There's an old man with a cane walking up. This used to be the Schumann place. Tore it down about 10 years ago. Any idea what this Schumann did for a living? He was retired. Think he did government work before that. So Cap's now on his motorcycle with his motorcycle helmet because, he's safe and obeys the law. I told you all what's down there. I recommend you seal off the hole as soon as possible. If I dig up anything pertinent, I'll be sure to let you know. Now we're at Westchester County, and there's a tractor trailer driving, and the driver's singing 6 days on the road, and I'm gonna make it home tonight. You know that song, Bob?
I don't know. I can't remember who sings it, but yeah, I do remember it. Yeah.
Well, Bob, that was by Dave Dudley back in 1964.
All right. I never was a big country fan. I was more of more Western.
Okay. All right. Is it is that a Blues Brother reference?
Or was I Western and was I country? No, I can't. But anyway.
Is that a Blues Brothers reference?
It is indeed. Yes.
What a great movie. We got both kinds of music in here, country and Western. What a great
Good
movie.
stuff.
So we see the truck driver wearing his, well, I guess truck driver uniform, right? Because he's got a red flannel shirt, some blue jeans, and a blue baseball hat.
Wasn't that the shirt Wolverine was wearing?
Oh, I don't know. Don't make me go back.
Fair enough.
And he's thinking to himself, keep singing, Reggie, old boy. You've been driving 13 hours and you got to stay awake at least 2 more to make it to the plant. Hey, what the flaming? And all of a sudden, his truck's just, the radio, the lights, the engine, everything just shuts down. So he pulls over to the side. Lights, engine, radio, all conked out at once? Let me try the CB. What? This is impossible. How could it be on the fritz too? And Bob, just in case you're curious, there's a little asterisk next to the CB. Do you know what that stands for?
I believe it's a Citizens Band radio, Rick.
Yes, it does. And if I honestly, if that wasn't here, someone would have asked me what does CB stand for. I would have had no idea.
That was big stuff back then. My brother.
I know what a CB does.
Yeah.
I could describe it. But I
10-4,
couldn't tell you what
buddy.
the acronym stands for.
Yep. 10-4, good buddy. Yeah.
You gonna put the hammer down?
Put the hammer down. My brother, I have 3 older brothers, Rick, and one of them, the next oldest from me, he was about 6.5 years older than me. That was it, man. He got a CB radio about this time, and he was seriously into the 10-4 good buddy thing.
You watching out for the fuzz?
Yeah, watching out for the fuzz, man.
Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, man, it wasn't just a few years before with Smokey and the Bandit.
Yep, right. I mean, yeah.
All right, so wait a minute, Bob. You're the young. Are you the youngest of 4, or do you have?
I'm the youngest of 6, Rick.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the accident. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So
Bob, I knew there was a reason we related. I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have been the youngest of 5. I mean, one of them is no good at all. So we could just
we'll let, if they're listening, we'll let them keep guessing who that is.
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad had a CB radio, and he had it in his truck, his pickup truck, which had a cab on the back.
Oh yeah.
Right. And when I got my first car, which is right around this time, it was 1986. Okay, and my first car was a 1976 Chevy Camaro.
What?
I know. Got myself a V8 305.
Wow.
It was and I paid for it with my own money.
God damn, I had a Datsun, for crying out loud.
Hey man, if you worked hard and saved up, you could have got a Camaro.
I guess so. Yeah, right. I'm lazy.
And I got a CB, my radio in there, because my dad had an extra one. He gave it to me, and so every once in a while, him and I would be driving somewhere, and because I didn't want to stay as long as him, so he would talk to me on the CB.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I guess.
Oh, that's cool, man. Those are pre-cell phone days, man. So that's all you had, right?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was totally pre-cell phone. So
that's
it was
so cool.
Yeah. All right. Where are we? So the truck pulled over. Reggie, who is driving the truck, realizes that everything's on the fritz. Hey, back of the rig is open, but it's got electronic lock on it. Oh, look, Bob. It's not just a lock.
It's an electronic. That's
lock.
right. It's a good one.
Yeah. Even I can't open it. That does it. Now I'm really peeved. And he pulls out a pistol, Bob. Got a pistol in a box. It's a revolver. Sounds like they're really ripping me off. So he's walking down the side of the truck. And then just then, coming out from behind the truck is a costumed man with a helmet riding on a glider. It's the same one that Wolverine saw before. He says, okay, drop what you're doing or I'll, and he gets surprised. And of course, he just automatically fires at the guy and he hits him point blank. And the guy says, you'll what? I call myself Overrider, friend. I'm going to be accompanying you to your destination. And he picks him up and Reggie drops the gun. If you don't try anything funny, I assure you that you will not be harmed. Cross me, and that's the last thing you'll do. Do I make myself clear? But my rig won't start. And then in the back of the truck, you have Tess, the robot, just throwing the cargo out to make room for himself. When I stop overriding your vehicle's electrical system, it will. See? And sure enough, everything turns back on. So Tess gets in the back of the truck and Overrider gets in the passenger side up front. Now then, to pass the time, you will tell me everything you know about the Adameco. Yes. Oh, great. And then the next word is metallurgy. It's the Adametco Metallurgy Company's security systems. Bob, maybe I should have practiced this before we did this.
No, I like the original tone.
I'm not touching that. All right. So then Reggie thinks to himself, oh man, Reggie, you're in the deep stuff this time. This guy looks like he just stepped out of Invaders from Mars and talks like he pulls off these stunts all the time. Well, there's a fence all around the place and guards, I think. Elsewhere in Westchester County, Wolverine busts into a hospital carrying Bob Frank. This man needs medical help. So move your tails. Sorry, you'll have to wait out there. I see multiple contusions, bone fractures. Must have been one heck of a fight. And they wheel him away. Wolverine pauses, weighing his options. Should he stick around, see if Nucleo pulls through, or see if he can pick up the Esselian's trail while it's still hot? There's nothing more he can do for Nucleo anymore, he decides. He thinks of calling his fellow X-Men on this, and he decides against it. He's got a personal score to settle here. This time, he'll do it alone. So he goes running into the woods again. Without a 200-pound load, he lopes through the woodland like an unshackled beast of the night. The miles melt under his silent footfalls. And soon, his keen animal senses detect something out of place in the wilderness. He smells machine oil and packing foam and warehouse dust. Crates tossed against the ground with great force very recently. And they say Adametco on them. A connection here? Adametco? The nation's leading manufacturer of antimonium? Elsewhere, and we see Cap on his motorcycle. What I can't get out of my head is that the machine guns in the cellar trap were World War II vintage. Ah, there's my van. And he gets into the van and he's driving. Could this Schumann, who presumably built the trap, have worked for the military or War Department? Maybe I can get hold of some declassified information through my contacts at the FBI. So then Reggie and Overrider are pulling up to Adametco, 2 a.m. the same night in southern New Jersey. And he's at the guard station. Let me see some ID and your work orders. Oh, it's you, Reggie. Should have expected you at this hour. How's it going? Not too bad, I guess. If I was a hero, I'd tell him about the weirdo I got hiding him back. But so help me, I'm scared I'll never see Darlene again if I squeal. Our driver did very well, Tess. Fear is a great motivator, I've always found. Be ready to disembark. Okay, friend, your ordeal is almost over. Just back up to the loading doors and kill the engine. You've been a delightful travel companion, Reginald, but I must see to it that you're out of harm's way till I complete my task here. And he sprays him with some sort of gas. Good night. Well, he's a man of his word, right? You know, he said if he complied, he wouldn't hurt him, so that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, he seems an interesting thing about this villain here, Rick. Right? I mean, he doesn't seem to want to take life.
It's true.
I don't know.
Okay, Tess, we must move quickly to the foundry. Hurry, now. And they break in to the company into this. I don't know. How would you describe this room?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. It's like it looks like any fabrication room, right? I mean, I don't know.
Like a manufacturing type
facility.
Yeah, you get all these guys dressed in blue uniforms with some sort of
like some welding masks on. Though.
Yeah, and aprons and heavy duty gloves. Yeah. And sure enough, the two of them break through the door. Subdue all but two of them, Tess, and use no more force than absolutely necessary. That thing's 20 feet tall. And Tess just starts firing lasers out of his fingertips on both hands, just nailing people. Tess, I said minimal force. Whenever I don't give her my undivided concentration, she goes wild on me. I'll have to watch it. And then there's two guys cornered against the wall. You men, unless you want my robotic friend here to hurt you too, you will prepare her for the antimanium treatment. Understand me? Yes. I know how long the process takes. I want to be finished before the 8 a.m. shift starts. Right. Under the overrider's relentless scrutiny, the workers prepare the robot called Tess 1 for the patented antimanium coating treatment. Oh, it's patent.
I thought you would have think this sort of thing would be secret, but it is patented.
Yes. So. All right. All right. I have a question. I'm going to stop here. So, antimanium, right? According to this story, is the strongest metal known, right? Mm-hmm. This is the manufacturer, the biggest manufacturer of antimanium. Now, over in Wakanda, that's what, vibranium, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's supposed to be the strongest metal there is, right?
Right.
Well, which one's stronger?
Right. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the adamantium is. And again, this shows my my lack of familiarity with some of the other series. But is it man-made? Because they refer to resins here, whereas I always thought vibranium was not man-made. It was a naturally occurring substance. But I'm not familiar enough with the background of vibranium because, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it's no, even in the Marvel universe, it's
like an ore of some sort.
It's an ore, but it comes from space, right? Didn't it crash land?
Like you're thinking like a meteorite,
right?
Crash land, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, man. I think everything you just said sounds like right to me. I don't know if it is, but it sounds right to me. And I kind of had the same assumptions. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe we can talk about this when we do our top 10 origin differences. Maybe are we going to throw in there stuff about Cap's shield and the origin of Cap's shield, or is that a completely different episode?
Well, it'll touch on, how Cap got his shield, where Cap got his name, right? All those sorts of things are important origin components, but not necessarily the makeup of the shield.
Okay. Because that, like, his shield is antimanium. And then I heard it's also vibranium.
Right.
But then another thing I heard was, well, no, it's antimanium. And then there's like a secret ingredient that we don't know.
Right.
Or maybe it's antimanium, vibranium, and a secret ingredient. I'm not.
Well, they mentioned that later in this story, Rick.
They said antimanium plus,
right? Plus.
Yes, right.
That's right.
Is why Wolverine's claws can't.
The mysterious plus, right? But of course, in the Golden Age, Cap's shield was cut in half more than at least once that I can remember. So,
there's been times throughout.
It wasn't indestructible back then.
You say indestructible, but there's been times where the round shield has been destroyed as well.
Right.
And it's just, I remember as a kid, the first time seeing his shield broken and be like, I'm like, no, that can't happen. Like, how do you put that back together? And
Right.
yeah, but there's been a few times his indestructible shield has been
Yeah. If
destroyed.
anybody has any insights they want to share, please, hop on, call in, make a comment, or hop on the Facebook group, make a comment.
Yeah,
School us.
absolutely. All right, Bob. I think that has to be a complete episode unto itself. It's all about his shield. We need to do an
Nice.
episode that is the different. Well, he's had different shields.
Mhm.
Number one, right? So we could talk
Right.
with the triangular shield in the beginning that Joe Simon, created,
Yeah.
right? And then the round shield they had to go with issue number 2 because they were going to get sued, right? Because of copyright infringement and all that. So we could touch on that. We could talk about the different versions of the round shield, the different origins of the round shield, and the different times it's been destroyed. And then we could talk about his other types of shields, like his photon shield,
Right. Yeah.
right? The Captain shield that was
Yep.
made by Tony Stark, and then he had a replacement made by Black Panther. Okay, you know what? I just said the whole episode there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. That was a good review. But I think we should still do it.
Yes. I think so too. I think
be fun.
I'll have fun doing it. I think the listeners might care. I don't know. All right. So what is Overrider doing here? He's got this gigantic robot, this 20-foot robot, Test 1, and he is getting it made so that it's being coated in antimonium. Why? During the process, the first thing they do is the flexible joints are all covered with a heat-resistant sealant to prevent the antimonium from hardening them. When the process is completed several hours from now, the already formidable automation automaton will be coated with the most impervious metal known to man.
Keeping it real.
I'm sorry. Did I pronounce the wrong syllable? Wow. Meanwhile, outside in the van, and we got Reggie waking up. What? Where? Reggie, old cuss, you're just too blam thick to stay conked out, I guess. Arms, legs feel like jelly, though. He gets out the CB. Bob, what's CB stand for?
Citizens Band Radio, Rick.
Oh, you remembered. I was
Breaker.
totally forgot. I completely forgot. That's like if they don't have a little editor's note here every single time, I'm going to be like, celestial body. I don't know. Breaker, big robot loose at Adametco plant. Repeat, big robot loose at Adametco plant. Call the cops. Call the army. Please, anyone, help. And what do we have on the other side of that CB radio is a guy with his, what do they call these things?
He's got his, what do you mean, his microphone? It looks like my older brother. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is my brother sat in front of the CB radio for months and months waiting for just this sort of transmission that never came.
Yeah, but what do they call these old radio things? It's got a name. Nah, I don't know. But yeah, there's a guy there. He's sitting there. He's like, well, bless me if my insomnia ain't paid off for once. This is Abel Baker. I read you, pal. I'll get you the best help there is. Have to contact Captain America's hotline, I do. Abel Baker. Why does that name sound familiar?
I wondered that too, Rick. I mean,
I think it's a homage to something.
Yeah, I would think so. It's obviously there's the, for crying out loud. Now I can't remember, but we use those in radio transmissions, right? Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, and Abel Baker has to mean AB something, but I don't know what it is. It's killing me.
Or maybe it's an homage to a golden age artist or some sort. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. And then we got Cap waking up, sleeping in the back of his van. He's got his shirt off. Nice little panel here for the ladies. And he's waking up and he pulls up the phone. He says, "My word, when I notified the Stars and Stripes to forward me any robot sightings without delay, I didn't expect one to show up this fast. Looks like no sleep for me tonight." And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, Stars and Stripes is the code name for Cap's network of computer hotline helpers. So now he's driving off in the van. I will say, back in 1986, Cap's motorcycle, Cap's van, probably has to go to the motor vehicle to get checked out, because they all have exhaust just pouring out of them whenever he rides them. Right?
Right. This was before people were really seriously concerned about greenhouse gas emissions, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be just an art thing that Mike Zeck wants to show that the vehicles are in movement, or it could be a serious problem that you have to get your exhaust checked out.
You need to get that muffler replaced. Yeah.
Yeah. The Adametco plant is only about 70 miles from here. And 70 miles away, Test 1 has undergone the third of the 7 1/4-inch applications of molten antimonium and is now dry enough to start the 4th. That's a lot of coats, man.
That is. Yeah. You don't get that at, when you normally bring your car in for repainting. You're going to get maybe 2, but this is serious stuff.
Unless it's the undercarriage, Bob. Make sure you always pay extra to get that undercarriage done to your car.
Yeah. I'm very persnickety about my undercarriage, Rick.
Outside, the overriders anxiously watches the clock. He fervently hopes they will not have to fight their way through the ranks of the next shift's workers. Okay. So he fervently hopes. So he's not a.
This is the third time, right?
He's trying to avoid fighting. Yeah,
third time he's been really careful about trying to avoid hurting people.
Yeah. Of course, the clock says 5 o'clock. I mean, he's got 3 hours before the 8 o'clock shift shows up. I don't know why he's so anxious.
Step on it. Yeah.
An hour later, Cap comes up and the guy that let Reggie in earlier, the guard, says, "But Captain America, the security here at Adametco is excellent. 24-hour sentries patrolling the fence, a radar tower scanning our airspace. I don't see how a robot could have gotten in without. Nevertheless, sir, I'd like to. Hey, what's that blinking light for?" And he looks at a console inside the guard tower. "Huh? That means someone's breached the fence. I better check in with main security." The Cap just drives off in his powdered smoke motorcycle.
But can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Legitimately, why is Cap wearing a short sleeve shirt?
Not in my picture. He's wearing his uniform.
Is he? Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm working off a digital version here, Rick.
I'm on the digital version.
Oh, yeah, because it shows him with bare arms.
No, I've got.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. And listen, I know, we're kind of showing how we make the sausage here, but yes, people, most times when I'm going through these, I am going through a digital version. Why, you may ask? Well, because I don't want to put my readers on and get a real bright light out and go through smaller print. Number one. Number two, of course, they're all bagged and boarded and stashed away, and this particular annual is behind me. Bob knows this, but
yeah, I can see it.
I've got on the wall behind me, and this is maybe a short little explanation of what I got going on back here, but I have a poster of the cover of this annual, and it's framed, and then I have taped to it the annual that I had signed by Mike Zeck. So I don't want to take that down and open it up and read it. So I am on a digital version. I know. As a former comic book shop owner, for shame,
but
buy physical copies. Keep
Yeah.
your comic book stores in business. I'm telling you that now. I am only doing this because, hey, listen, if I didn't have a podcast, I wouldn't be doing this. I would totally have my physical copies.
Yeah. And generally I don't drink while I'm reading my comics, but I do for these podcasts, and I don't want to be handling my my precious hard copies, my precious. So digital is the way to go when you're
Bob, that's another fourth wall we just broke there. I really don't. I don't like to talk about the fact that you usually pound 6 drinks during these podcasts.
I want to be open with the listeners. Rick.
Oh boy!
I also want to point out that when I was doing the sound effects earlier for the I went out. We took a short break. I went out. I said hi to my wife, and she's like, "Your sound effects woke up your son."
Oh no!
so I got to go back in. I'm sorry.
Bob's in trouble, everybody.
Yeah. So this is how the sausage gets made, folks. There's sacrifices that have to be made.
Yes, it's true. And then Rick will spend 7 hours editing, re-editing, posting, marketing, sending it out, while Bob's just moving on.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of Rick with a sandwich board out on the sidewalks, marketing this podcast.
Oh my goodness!
So it's no joke.
Bob, talk about the website. CaptainAmericaComicBookFans.com. So I launched this a month ago, right? By the time this comes out, 2 months ago. But anyway, and I didn't realize that. I thought it was going to just automatically populate the posts from the podcast, but it didn't. Yeah. So I had to I have to do the posts individually, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but I got 95% of it right. But guess what? The 5% I got wrong was I wasn't loading the actual podcast correctly. So if you went to listen to episode 40, you might have been listening to episode 39. And
Surprise.
Listen, everybody out there, if that happened to you, I apologize. I figured out what I was doing wrong. I fixed it. It's all working well now. But yeah, those are the types of things that just keep me busy.
Labor of love, Rick.
It is totally labor of love.
So.
Totally labor of love. But we appreciate our 5 patrons.
And with that, back to the story.
Yes. So the remember the fence? There's somebody breached the fence, Bob. Who could it have been?
Cyclops.
There were any number of ways inside the plant, many of which may have been more surreptitious than this one. So Bob, when I saw this, I usually read these things once before we record, and then because sometimes there's a word that I don't say very often that might trip me up. Mm-hmm. Well, surreptitious is one of those words. So I actually had to make sure that I was saying it correctly. So I went online to check that out. And Bob, did you know that it meant kept secret, especially because it would not be approved of? That's the definition.
That's a lot of detail. That's good to know.
Yes. Thanks, Mark Gruenwald. So again, Wolverine he went through one of the fences. And why? Because he decided that speed was more essential than stealth here, and no way in was quicker than this. Effortlessly, the fearless mutant eludes the frantically searching security patrols, making his way to the hub of the plant's activity at this hour, the foundry. But just as he was about to enter, Cap coming up in his exhausted motorcycle with all the puffs of cloud coming. Okay, you hold it right there. of all the flaming luck. Wolverine. What's the idea of the break-in, Wolverine? Did your new crony Magneto send you? None of your business, bub. And then there's a little note there from the editor. Former leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, now with the X-Men. So that was one of the things that I pointed out before that didn't sit well with many people. And by the way, the following year in 1987, you know what comes out? 4-issue miniseries, X-Men versus the Avengers. So that's written by Roger Stern, who obviously knows Captain America and the Avengers very well. And there's a 4-issue miniseries that comes out. So this is a little bit of a precipice to that, I guess you could say. So Cap has a, how would you describe the look on his face here?
He looks like he just ate something that disagreed with him.
He looks a little indignant.
Yeah.
Right?
He's got some indigestion going on there.
Okay, you say indigestion. I say indignant. Now, look, I'm willing to give you X-Men the benefit of the doubt in light of your past accomplishments. But now that you've thrown in with Magneto, I need you to explain every time I find you stepped out of line. Furthermore, I think your general attitude... Well, Wolverine's not having any of this. So the next panel is what you see on the cover, and that is Wolverine coming down with his claws and Cap putting his shield up to protect himself. Pal, I've got no time for your self-righteous bull. Antimanium claws strike the Antimanium Plus shield with a cascade of sparks. The sudden lunge tips Captain America off balance. But in the next moment, he regains it and sidesteps Wolverine's next swipes. Come on, Wolverine, just tell me what you're snooping around here for, and I'll go easy on you. Cappy, I think it's high time somebody cut you down from your high horse. Now, why did I have to go and taunt this guy? So they're swinging at each other and missing each other because they're all very good, athletes. But then Tess 1 breaks through the wall. He must be a fan of Iron Man. You know how Iron Man always broke through all the walls?
That's right. Yeah. We discussed that, I think. Wasn't that the previous?
Yeah, that was the Tales of Suspense 58 that we got.
Yeah.
Primary program, quarry in range. The robot. This thing's steaming. Good grief. It's been coated with antimanium. Looks like you were after the bucket of bolts, too. Couldn't you have just said so? I didn't like the way you asked. So the robot swings at Cap. He puts his shield up. So they dive, and then just then, when Tess starts firing lasers at Cap, puts his shield up and pushes Wolverine away so he can protect Wolverine with his shield. And Overrider comes flying in. Tess, we have no time for, oh, geez, Captain America and Wolverine? Watch who you're shoving. I don't need you to protect me. It was hard enough to bring her back under control earlier, but with the man she was programmed to eliminate right here, it'll take all my mental power. Oh, great. Now here comes the security. Stay back, men. The robot's antimanium. Query. Wolverine, take care of that flying guy while I tackle the robot. Tess, we must leave now. Way ahead of you, flag man, so cool it with the orders. And just then, Wolverine grabs the floating device that Overrider was on. What? Wolverine is repugnantly one of the most dangerous free agents ever to rise through the ranks of the intelligence agencies. I'm taking no chances with him. So he turns quickly to make Wolverine fall off. Oh no, not again. Test, blast you. Programming, cease fighting. Follow me. It's uncanny how well this robot fights. Who could have programmed it? Aha. That's the circuit I've been overlooking. I haven't felt it in my previous mental scans. Now when I override Tess, she'll stay overridden. And the armed guards were like, who the heck was that, Cap? Don't know. Maybe my comrade in arms knows. You okay, Wolverine? And so, of course, if you remember, Wolverine was on that device, but he fell. So he's on the ground sitting. What's it to you, Avenger? If you hadn't delayed me, I might have gotten a drop on that robot's master before he caught wind of us. Now look, I may have been out of line coming down on you as I did, but we're both obviously on the same case here. Let's say we set aside past differences and compare notes. And he reaches a hand out to help Wolverine up from the ground. I'd say no dice, but I want to nail that metal sucker real bad. You first. And after a brief exchange, so Cap's sitting on his motorcycle and he's about to put his helmet on. So it looks like we both have some leads to follow up. Willing to meet again afterwards? Richie's Bar, north of Salem Center on Country Truck M, 10 o'clock tonight. So, Bob, there was a little bit of mystery there.
Ooh, I like mysteries, Rick.
Well, didn't Overrider say that, not with one of the Test One's queries, he was either referring to Cap or Wolverine. He was like, with the query here that she's programmed to go after.
Right. Yeah.
So we, it's a little bit of a mystery. Like we didn't know. Was he talking about, is Tess after Captain America or is Tess after Wolverine?
That's right. And we don't know why Tess was after Bob Frank.
That's true. I think Bob Frank just got in the way.
You think he just got in the way? He just happened to be meandering about in the countryside?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Volman Center for Disturbed Children, West Virginia, 6 hours later. This way, Mr. Rensselaer. He's in the playroom. Thank you. And then, so there's a bunch of kids playing in a playroom, except for this one child who's just sitting in a chair, seeming to be, I don't know, Bob, how would you describe him? He's just kind of motionless, not responding to any stimulus.
Right. Yeah. He's just sort of catatonic, right?
That's a good word. Johnny, how have you been, son? Sorry I haven't been up to see you in over a week. I've been very busy. Son, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what we once talked about. The bombs you're afraid will fall on us. Well, I've come up with a way so you won't have to be afraid of that anymore. Your dad's going to get rid of all the bombs. Really. I'm on my way now. When you see me again, they'll be gone. Bye, son. And he kisses him on the cheek. But again, the son's catatonic and doesn't really register any kind of emotion. So he's out in the parking lot walking to the van. He's thinking, and this is just a guy in a business suit, but looks middle-aged. Nuclear psychosis, the doctors called it. Total withdrawal from reality, too difficult to deal with. I wish to God I'd never answered his question about the atom bomb, the arms race, the button. But at least I have the power to do something about it. So, Bob, it's 1986.
It's 86, buddy.
What is he talking about here?
Yeah. Where were you in 1983, Rick? Do you remember?
1983?
Yeah.
Well, this is 1986.
I know, but I'm asking you. Answer the damn question, Rick.
Okay. Well, Bob, let's see. 1983. I was.
All right, this could be a long
eighth grade.
answer.
Eighth grade.
Let me cut to the shit. Do you remember a certain network TV movie, made for movie, one of the first network TV movies, not like the after school specials, but a network TV movie called The Day After?
Yes, Bob. We've had this conversation because what episode did we talk about this movie? This made for TV movie.
No idea.
What?
I just wiped the slate when we're done, man.
Dude, they're all like our babies. Like every one of these is important to me.
Yeah, the day
It was
after.
early. It was early on. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Was it during the Deathlock issues? I think it was. I think it was episode 4.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the Deathlock issues, and I think we started off because back then we used to be like, "Hey, what's going on in the current times?"
Yeah.
And I think I brought up the day after because that was that Chris Christopherson?
No, but it had like Jason Robards in it. John Lithgow was in it. You know, he's a classic.
Yes. We talked about that. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very familiar, Bob.
Right.
Thank you very much.
I mean, that scared the crap out of me.
Because in 1983, that's when the Deathlock story came out, 286 to 289.
Yeah. So that was a scary, scary movie, man. It upset a lot of folks, particularly
really
a lot of teenagers, young folks, right? Who nuclear winter, man. This, and so this is just a few years later, right? This is like the heart of the end of the Cold War and the nuclear arms race that eventually broke the bank for the Soviet Union and drove them into dissolution. But there were some scary years there. And so this is coming out right around that time.
It's true. What's the button, Bob? He refers to, he says, atom bomb, arms race, the button.
Yeah. Well, there's no actual real button, right? But I think he's referring, of course, to the nuclear football and all those guys. And of course, at that time, it wasn't guys and gals. It was just guys sitting in nuclear silos with those keys around their neck, ready to turn the keys and push the buttons simultaneously to launch the warheads.
Yep. All right. So his son's catatonic because of this. So he's like, I'm going to get rid of all the nuclear missiles. Right. So he gets back into the van and there's Tess 1 sitting in the back of the van. Tess, I'm delighted to see you haven't run away on me again. And then we cut to Steve Rogers in his civilian outfit sitting in front of a computer. In fact, he's at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. My contact at the FBI ran down the name Schumann for me. The guy who owned the place was this Tess robot came out of was a government scientist during World War II. Thanks to the Freedom of Information Act making public certain old classified documents, I may be able to get a line on what Schumann was working on. After hours of searching for the right microfilm...
I miss those days.
Do you remember those days?
I do.
Oh, my goodness. All right, Bob, you know what?
Those in the card catalog.
I feel bad. We've gone on so many tangents in this episode. I think like it's all we do is tangents now, right? Yeah. Like this is a one issue, and it's going to end up being a very long episode.
I'm saying it. Dewey Decimal System. That's it. I've said it.
Yeah, I mean, you had to go to the library, and you got microfiche, and you went ahead, or microfilm, right? I don't know. And you would take it and you would put it underneath this thing, this glass, and there'd be a light, and you'd look through these little goggles and you'd read these small, they would take newspapers and put them on this mic, right? And that's how you did, because it was before what? The internet.
Yeah, the interwebs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Steve looks at this and he goes, this is incredible. If I interpret this document correctly, and the document that he's looking at is Project Tess, which has been terminated. Total elimination of superheroes. What?
Super soldiers.
Oh,
that hits home.
Yeah, it does. Project head Daniel Schumann. Inception date back in 1939. Termination date in 1940. This can't be the same guy. This is 1986. So even if it was 46 years later, he looks middle-aged with a small child. This can't be the same guy.
Not the same guy.
President Roosevelt had a secret meeting with the War Department's top brass and scientists shortly after they began the project to create a super soldier, the project that enabled me to become Captain America. Apparently, this Professor Schumann argued that once America had its army of super soldiers and they won the war and came home, What would prevent them from abusing their superior power, perhaps becoming the master race that Hitler glorified? His answer was a fail-safe device capable of neutralizing super soldiers, the test robots. FDR gave him the go-ahead and allocations to proceed with his contingency plan. Only thing was, the one man who knew how to create super soldiers, Professor Erskine, was killed shortly after creating just one of them, me. With the super soldier program failing to yield its legions of superhuman warriors, Schumann's contingency program was no longer necessary. His funds for tests were cut off, and he was told to dispose of his work. Obviously, he didn't. He took the robot to his home and used his home money to complete it over 40 years ago.
Hold on, Rick. I'm no mathematician.
Yeah.
But, in the introduction to this section, it says that the termination date was September 14th, 1940.
Yep. Don't do it, Bob.
All right, I'm not doing it.
Save that for your top 10 origin. All right, so we cut over to the X-Men Mansion, which is in Westchester County, New York. Quartered here is a most singular information gathering device and data bank. For years, Cerebro has been quietly scanning human brain waves, identifying those which exhibit mutant characteristics. On a hunch, Wolverine has been poring over Cerebro's databanks, looking for a mutant who controls machines. His hunch pays off. And it's Richard Rensselaer, age 46, discovered in 1982. And by the way, he's a retired SHIELD agent. This may be the man, Wolverine thinks. He could check him out before meeting Captain America tonight. The next day, somewhere in Nebraska, so we got the Overrider in his civilian outfit with his van pulled over at a gas station. Look at the gas prices, Bob. How much is a gallon of regular gas?
Nice, huh? $1.09 a gallon.
$1.09 a gallon.
Yeah.
Those were the days. So he's out there and he's stretching. He goes, legs sure get stiff after a long haul. Say, how about far is it to the Outfit Air Base? Oh, about 50 miles. And the guy's
it's Offutt Air Base, but
yeah. And the guy, this is back when they've not only filled up your car, but they would go and they clean your windshields. Do you remember that, Bob?
I do. This was back when they actually had live people.
I know.
Right?
Now listen, I live in New Jersey. So in New Jersey is one of the few states left where you're not allowed to pump your own gas. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I grew up in Delaware, so I was always used to pumping my own gas. So I came to New Jersey. I'm like, what? But yeah, you have to stay in your car. They pump the gas for you. But I tell you what they don't do. They don't wash your windshields.
Oh.
They don't check your oil. They don't do the things that they used to do when we were kids.
Yeah. They do that. I lived in Vietnam for a while, Indonesia, and you pull into a gas station, there's like 6 folks that run out to the car. Like they're pumping gas, they're checking air pressure, they're washing your windows, it's like a whole choreographed thing going on. And it's a job machine, right? That's why they do it. So it's a shame. I miss that. It was a great job for teenagers.
Yeah, sure enough. So anyway, he goes, leave the van. The guy's washing windshields. He sees the giant robot in the back. He's like, holy smokes. And then as soon as they leave, he basically calls it in to who? Well, he gets on the Stars and Stripes. And Bob, here's interesting. It says quickly, Gary Naslund.
I saw that.
Transmits the following message. 15-foot robot in back of rental truck spotted 10 miles from Hadley, Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Gary Naslund. Bob,
not a common name.
It is not. Do you think he's any relation to William Naslund?
Wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, I would hope, he found a better forward path than, middle of nowhere, Offutt off at Air Base, Nebraska, middle of nowhere, pumping gas. But hey, to each his own, man.
I guess. Nightfall. Richard Renzler, a.k.a. Overrider, has patiently waited for the sun to set, parked it in his truck 10 miles from America's Nuclear Command Center. America's Nuclear Command Center. Somehow he knew where it was. I guess because he was an ex-SHIELD agent.
Right, yeah.
So he's flying on his device, and Tess is with him, flying. Okay, Tess, old girl. The world's salvation is up to us. Let's go and do it. I sensed infrared proximity alarms, a simple matter to override them. A pity I'm not within range of their radar tower. I could override it, too. Won't make much difference now that we're in. I want Tess to be noticed. Go to it, Tess. Find your super soldier, and don't let any regular soldiers get in your way. And as soon as Tess lands, she fires from her hands, busts opens the door. And while Tess creates a major league diversion, I'll just sit tight here above it, waiting for the right time to make my move. And so, sure enough, the robot's fighting, and the soldiers are all there. Good gravy. What is that thing? It's not Iron Man, that's for sure. And inside the installation's command center, they're looking at the screens and they see what's going on. And the guy in charge, you could tell he's in charge because he's got gray temples and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's in a business suit. Why can't they stop it? They're trying to, sir. It repels bazookas, anti-tank guns. Not that I think it can penetrate this facility. General Landon, call came through. The Avengers Quinjet is circling the base. Captain America requests permission to let him land. Maybe he could stop that thing. Outside, Tess is doing a great job drawing their attention away from me. Now, if I remember the layout of this place from the time I visited as a SHIELD agent, the outer door, outwitting the electronic tumbler is easy. The tricky part is doing it without letting anyone know I've done it. I'm in, but there are several more to breach before I'm in the control room. Elsewhere, nearby, we tried just about everything short of nuke-tipped missiles. If we up the artillery anymore, we'll wreck the base worse than the robot is. And there's Captain America. Get your men to pull back and stop firing. Let me and my associate try. I left word for the Avengers to assemble here as soon as they could, but I have a feeling if Wolverine and I can't do something before then, the base won't be left standing. So he and Wolverine go to run towards Tess. Suddenly, the Tess-1 robot pauses in its indiscriminate destruction as its sensors detect the newcomer's presence. Query in range, eliminate. Who do you think he's talking about?
I guess he must be talking about the super soldier. There's only one.
I don't know,
there,
but he
right?
fires on Wolverine. And he does. He fires on Wolverine, and Wolverine jumps. You're quick, bub, but not quick enough. All the men have pulled back as you asked, Captain. Good. Say, Sergeant, I'd hunt for cover if I were you. That robot's coming this way, and I'm its prime target. Well, at least Cap thinks so. So he throws the shield, and it just... What sound does it make? It ricochets off his antimanium hull. My shield's a bit stronger than antimanium. I like how they just... You know what? That's the other cool thing about this particular issue, right? Because, as comic geeks, we sometimes have these conversations. What's stronger, Captain America's shield or Wolverine's claws?
Uh-huh.
And according to Mark Gruenwald, and according to this issue, Captain America's shield is stronger.
That's true, but at least he's honest with the physics, right? I mean, mass matters.
He does. He says,
"Yeah,
my shield's a bit stronger than antimanium, but Tess also outweighs it by a factor of 1,000. Still, I've got to keep it occupied till the soldier gets to safety." Query fleeing. Come on, let's lead the thing away from the troops. Look, I agree to hitch a ride with you here, but that doesn't mean I'm taking orders from you, bub. Wolverine's such a loner, so volatile. I'm used to working with team players. That gate gives me an idea. If you're amenable, Wolverine, try to get it to turn its back on me for a second. Since you asked so nice. For the past 10 minutes, Wolverine has been observing his metallic nemesis, timing the duration of its concussion blasts and the interval in between. Then, in the 5 seconds it takes for its right blaster to recharge, he pounces. And he does. He jumps right on top of him. But Tess throws him down. And Cap, who's on the other side of him, thinks to himself, I may not think of that much of him personally. But I must admit, Wolverine has great moves. His close quarter stunts are really engaging Tess's full attention. With luck, it won't notice what I'm up to till it's too late. And they managed to make Tess fall. We done it. It's down. Go for its joints. If they were adamantium, they couldn't flex like they do. Not just any joint. I'm going for the throat. And he puts his claws into the neck area of the robot. I've penetrated, but I'm not far enough to get the leverage I need. What can I do to help? Besides keeping him from swatting you off. And he's using his shield to stop the hands. Use your shield to hammer my claws in farther. But I'd have to strike your hands to do it. No time to argue, just do it. I'm told he's a fast healer, but this'll still hurt like mad. And he does. He's got his claws in the neck, so Cap's using his shields to pound down the claws deeper, which is hitting his Wolverine's hands. Good. Another few blows, and I'll have it. He must be in agony, but he doesn't flinch. And Cap comes down. I mean, he comes down hard. He has the shield with both hands on either side, and he takes it over his head and slams it down onto his hands. Head severed. We did it. Good thing I didn't act like Wolverine does when he ordered me to strike him. How are your hands? Bleeding. We'll stop any minute now. Great job, you two. It's not over yet, soldier. This robot's master has probably breached your installation by now. So they start running inside. In minutes, the Avenger and the X-Men are escorted inside in the Situation Room. I just pray there's still time. There he is. What's he trying to do? I could try to talk him down, but not till I know if he set any booby traps only he can disarm. Okay, Rensselaer, what's the bright idea? You looking to set off World War III from up there? Quite the contrary, Wolverine. I'm going to make World War III an impossibility. Once I've taken mental control of everything electronic in this whole facility, I'm going to launch America's entire nuclear arsenal. Got to stall him. Think of a plan. How? Simple. I'm going to aim them at the sea and bury them on the ocean floor without detonating them. Instant unilateral disarmament. If anyone tries to stop me, I'll activate the missile's aiming mechanisms, thus reducing the facility to a smoking crater. I can't believe you'd throw your life away like that. If I fail, the human race is doomed anyway. Wolverine knows who I am, an ex-intelligence agent. I know the world's sitting on a powder keg. If I fail, there's no hope, nothing to live for. What about your kid? My son is a victim of nuclear psychosis, an overwhelming dread that the world will end at any moment. If I don't succeed, my son is doomed to live out whatever's left of his life as a vegetable. I have to succeed, don't you see? But what will prevent the Russians from misinterpreting the launch? They might... Enough talk. I've started the countdown to launch time. If you distract me, I may accidentally aim the missiles at Moscow. Enough talk. I've started the countdown to launch time. If you distract me, I may accidentally aim the missiles at Moscow. He's really done it. He's locked us out of our own terminals. And then Cap takes his shield and he throws it. If I let this go on any further, it might be too late to stop him. Now, while his head is turned, I've got to aim this just right so I can take him down and catch my shield before it damages anything. Got him. Wolverine, catch him. And then Wolverine pops his claws. Snick, snick. Oh, I'll catch him all right. And he aims his claws right up at where Overrider is falling to. Wolverine thinks Overrider's brain is his weapon. The only way to disarm him is to shut down that brain. Overrider is psychotic as his son. The world is in danger if he lives. The world may be better off without him. On the other hand, there's a simpler way to resolve the situation. Disobey orders. And at just that point, Wolverine turns and lets Overrider crash to the ground. Missed. The technicians scrambled to regain control of America's defenses, and in a matter of minutes, the nuclear arsenal has been restored to its customary standby status. The medics are on his way, Captain. How is he? Still breathing. There must be a limit to the range of his mental power, or he'd not have risked coming in here. We'd better move him as soon as we can. And Wolverine's walking away. Cap points at him. As for you, mister, you better hope the X-Men never get tired of putting up with you, because I guarantee you the Avengers would never have you. The fall didn't kill him. I could have. I didn't. What more do you want? And then the last panel of the whole story, we see Bob Frank sitting in a hospital bed with bandages on his head and a cast on his arm. And who's sitting next to him? But Logan, smoking a cigarette. Epilogue, 24 hours later. Hey, kid, how you doing? Who are you, mister? The guy who found you and brought you here. Bob Frank appreciates it. Thanks. Hey, no sweat, Bob. The end. And it has a little, again, as I mentioned earlier, special thanks to Joseph Rubinstein for pitching in and inking pages 32 through 40.
Thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a fun story, Rick.
Yes, it was.
A lot of action.
A lot happened. Yeah. So, you know what? Hey, look, Wolverine's got a soft heart at the very end, right? He goes and he checks in on Bob Frank. So he's not a bad guy, right?
Yeah. You know, it's an interesting, right? Because there is this sort of juxtaposition, like this contrasting between Cap and Wolverine. They're cut from very different pieces of cloth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, you know, of course, Bob Frank is a mutant, right? So Wolverine has some affinity there.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about Captain America, you know, the Avengers will never accept Wolverine.
Right.
Well, 20 years later, Wolverine's a member of the Avengers. Yeah, he joined in New Avengers number 7. So famous last words, Cap.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it wasn't even 20 years, right? Because in the Marvel time, that was probably a couple of years later.
It's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So never say never.
What do you think? All right. So what else? I know we paused and we stopped at a lot of different things along the issue. Any overriding last thoughts?
Yeah, you know, one of the things I like about this sort of era, right, is that some of these bad guys that they came up with, right, had some legitimate concerns, right? So the Overrider or Flag Smasher or Everyman, right? These were guys that they had legitimate gripes. It's just how they sort of went about addressing those concerns, right? That is the problem. It is virtue taken too far becomes a vice, and I think that's a really interesting way to create a villain or a bad guy, anyway. And so I'd love that about this particular issue, because not only do you get the Cap Wolverine thing, but it really gets you thinking about, at least in the context of the 1980s, there was a palpable fear of a nuclear holocaust and what would come
Right.
after.
Yep.
And they played on that very effectively.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's a good sign of a good writer is when you can create a villain or a bad guy that is not two-dimensional, that you can almost relate to them. You can almost say, hey, I understand their genesis. I understand their impetus behind what it is they're doing. And who knows, if for the grace of God, maybe I would have made some bad decisions if I was in the same situation, and I could relate to that particular person. So yeah, that's always intriguing. It's always a sign of a good writer.
Right. We talked about, like, in our top 10 villains, right, that a lot of the villains, the way they're written in the Marvel universe, are heroes in their own story. And certainly Overrider would see himself as a hero in his own story.
Of course. Yeah. All he wanted to do was, take away the threat so that his son would get better. All right, Bob. So is it time to announce next episode who our guest is going to be?
Do it, Rick. Do it.
Wow.
Do it.
Okay. All right. Well, there is a book that came out. I can't remember when it came out, but it's been around for a little while. And the title of the book, and you may have seen it in the Facebook pages, because I know sometimes people talk about the book, and it's called Captain America, Masculinity and Violence, The Evolution of a National Icon. And that is the title of the book. And so we're going to have the author, Dr. Rick Stevens, is going to join us next episode to talk about his book.
Rick, this is my favorite book of all time. Of all time, Rick. Yeah. I was talking to my wife about this last night. She's like, "What is this a good book?" I'm like, "It's not a good book. It's a great book. It's my favorite book." And the thing I love about it is it's so well researched, and it's so insightful, and it covers the evolution of Cap from like 1941 up through the book. Goes up through 2018 with the paperback edition, and how Cap's values and principles and moral positions and his views on violence itself, righteous violence, restrained violence, have evolved over time with different creative teams. So it's really interesting, because we tend to think of, well, Cap's always been the same. But in fact, his positions have changed on a number of things over the years. And so it's going to be a great conversation. I think.
I'm looking forward to it. I remember the first time you introduced me to this book, over a year ago. And I saw the title, right? And it was Captain America, Masculinity and Violence. I was like,
it sounds crazy, right? The title throws you off. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's, no, you're right. This is a great opportunity to talk with the author on that. And so looking forward to that. That'll be next episode, where we talk with him in episode number 47.
Awesome.
All right.
I can't wait.
You know what? It's been a long episode. Thanks to everybody for sticking around and listening to Bob and I wrap Cap. Because as always, Bob, it's been fun.
Sting, sting. Yes.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you've been listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. Hey. What are you doing? You're still here? It's over. Go home. Did you like that?
Oh, I hope folks hung out for that.
I do too.